It's time to rethink, renew, and reimagine retirement. Welcome to Retire Repurposed. Well, many organizations have mission statements that guide their decisions and actions. But what about you? Today, Taatjes introduces the concept of creating your own personal repurposed statement, a powerful document that becomes your standard of operation for your retirement. This isn't just about having nice words on paper. It's about creating a practical framework that guides how you invest your time, talents, and treasures. Ben breaks down the 4 key components to crafting this statement, including a fascinating exploration of how childhood experiences often reveal your deepest callings. Join us as we discover how looking back at your past can illuminate your path forward, helping you create a retirement that reflects who God created you to be. Enjoy this episode. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Retire Repurposed. I'm your co-host, Jared Sebesta. So glad that you're joining us here on the show once again. Today, if you are new to the show, this is a brand new theme, concept. This is going to be something new for you, and this is really going to help you understand where and how you need to navigate your retirement. We're going to talk about crafting your own repurposed statement. This is going to be a crucial step for you to really step into your fullness once you get into retirement. On last week's show, we talked a little bit about kind of the new era of retirement 2.0, so to speak. And this is something that we have seen in the business and kind of just in society changes, that there's just a little different viewpoint on ways that people look at their retirement. Taatjes joins me on the show now. And again, it's kind of getting away from kind of the old school way of doing things, the way it was done. Maybe our grandparents did it, certainly. Maybe our parents did it, me and you. But there's kind of a new wave and a kind of a new flavor of retirement that's starting to arise, right?
Yeah, I think it's people are, I guess maybe they're seeing others older than them that are retiring. They're like, I don't know if I want that.
Yeah.
My wife and I had a chance. This is several years ago. We were down in Arizona, and we happened to stop by, and we were just kind of cruising with our girls, and we had been talking so much, Jared, about this, the retirement communities. And again, if I'm stepping on somebody's toes, this doesn't, maybe you need to hear this, number one, but I'm not saying all retirement communities are bad, but we happened to cruise through one. And we had just gotten back from this great vacation where we're seeing the world. We're in the Grand Canyon, and all this world is right there, right near Arizona. And I get down to the Mesa area, and I was like, well, I'm doing this work on Repurpose. We're talking about retirement communities. Let's cruise through one. And what I noticed was every single thing in these people's world, for a lot of them, was right there. There was, a lot of community things, which we love community. There was a lot of just activities for everybody to do right in their compound. There was their own bank, their own restaurants, their own everything.
Yeah.
But the world's so much bigger than that, right? I mean, and I think it was just such a stark contrast for us as we came back from the Grand Canyon to now this, where everything was right there in Mesa. And I guess I feel like, and my wife said the same thing, she's like, I want to be out there. I want to be doing things at our retirement someday. I want to be involved in our local community. Will we maybe spend some time away on vacations? Yeah. But we still need to be living with impact. We still need to be making a difference in the people around us. And again, for all the good that comes from retirement communities, I think we just got to be very careful that we don't just get in the habit of looking at ourselves as the focus of our life.
Yeah. I certainly don't think that that is going away anytime soon, nor should it. But I do think that you're seeing people look at their life a little bit differently. I would say even in our generation, younger generations for sure, they're not just getting JOBs. Maybe our grandparents, with all due respect, did. That was kind of a general statement that we've made in the past, where people work a job for 30 or 40 years, kind of climbing the corporate ladder, staying in it just to get the 401k, the pension, the gold watch, retire when they are told to, whether they really like the job or not. It was really just kind of eyeballing retirement so they can maybe move to a retirement community someday and have kind of things catered to them. That model is kind of breaking down, and I'm seeing this resurgence of purpose amongst all ages, where we're kind of getting back to the basics as to what we're trying to do with our lives. I think that's a kind of a good shift in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's about calling. It's about purpose. It's about what is God showing us in our life. And I do believe that the people that are retiring the best, Jared, are still open to his calling. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, I should be focused on others. I should be able to add value to those around me. And I think that's really, really important, right? No matter what age you are.
Yeah, 100%. So if you missed last week's episode, kind of the new era of retirement, especially if you're new to the show and new to this concept of being repurposed, highly recommend you go back and listen to last week's show. It really lays out kind of the core message of what we're getting at as far as living out retirement in a new way. So go back and go check that out. Great segue into today's show, where we are now crafting your repurposed statement. We're going to break this down in detail. But first, before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of doing it, Ben, let's talk about this a little bit. Like, why should this be one of those steps for a new retiree?
Jared, when you first retire, I've seen it play many, many times. There's going to be requests of your time from all over the place. Mm-hmm. And versus just saying yes to everything or no to everything, you should be saying yes to the things that make sense. Mm-hmm. If you want to live in retirement and enjoy that season of life and make the biggest impact, I think that's the key piece here. If you want to make the biggest impact, you got to be aligned with who you are and what's most important to you. So, I think it's very important that, companies all have mission statements. Something I do in my work as a financial advisor, I have something I call my advisor point of view, which is a document that describes why I'm in this business. It describes, really my journey coming into this business. It really describes my values, what's most important to me. It describes, my purpose. And it's something that if I'm even looking at taking on a client and they don't fit with that, I should say no. If I'm looking at a new business opportunity, it doesn't fit with who I am and what I'm trying to do, I can say no. Same thing for a retiree. Yeah. I want somebody to be able to take that new request from some nonprofit and run it through the litmus test of, does it match what I want, what's best for me, how God created me, and be able to say no. It's the lens at which you can make decisions through. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It seems like it will cause the busybody to not get caught up in things that he or she shouldn't be in. But I can also see it kind of helping the other end of the spectrum, where it's going to create a lot of awareness for somebody who maybe has the inkling to want to go into cruise control, or where the desire and the fervor for life starts to go down. This statement can help kind of boost their morale as well. Yeah, if you're somebody that's saying yes to everything, it's gonna allow you to say no. If you don't say no to everything and all I want to do is rest, it's gonna remind you, no, that there was There's some importance to my life, and I do need to make sure I'm staying involved. So either side of the spectrum, very important. I think everybody needs that mission statement. Your personal mission statement is kind of what this is for somebody coming into this just massive life change. Yeah. So let's get into it. You already kind of mentioned just a little bit of this first step here, but like, what is the first piece of this puzzle? The first step is just diving into your journey. What got you there? And parts of that involves, if we're working with somebody trying to kind of write this out, it's looking at your entire life. There's so many important things that happened when we were kids, in our younger years, those formative years, where we need to look at how that shaped us into what we believe, what we believe today. And what God has shown us through our entire journey. Yeah. So that involves looking at, childhood, but also your work, the work that you did. It hopefully brings you to a new viewpoint of your work and just how positive work was. And then it brings you through, where you're at today. So it's your entire life journey. Yeah. And you're looking at key stages and key points throughout that journey to kind of tell you more about yourself. You're searching pretty inward in that time, but it's really important work. Yeah. So I can picture a retiree thinking about this. There's a lot there by the time you're, 60, 70 years old. You talk about how sometimes there's going to be some signature, we call them signature, but some key experience perhaps that
tend to kind of stick out in our memory more than others? And you say to really, really be in tune with those, right?
Yeah, be ready to kind of relive some of that stuff, and even the hard stuff. Jared, so many things that I think in my personal life have taught me the most about myself is just that, the hardest moments that we go through. And some great times too, but man, those hard times teach us the most. So be willing to dive deep into why you are who you are today, right? And it's so important right off the bat to re-look. Really, yes, you're reimagining through this process what retirement can be, but part of it is you're kind of coming to refocus, right, on what stages of your life created you or turned you into the person you are today.
Yeah, because if you look back, there's probably a lesson or a conversation or something that happened that kind of, I don't want to say propelled you, but probably influenced you in a lot of ways, likely from childhood, not always, but likely. And this was kind of a key inflection point. We would call that kind of your signature story. You've got one for your kind of personal mission statement, which has led you into this business. Share that. I mean, you've shared it before. It's been in your first book, Repurposed, but the reason why that's in the book and is a signature story is because that's a huge part of your background. Give people a little background on that.
Yeah, it's a huge part of why I do what I do in finance. And I was recently sharing this with a prospective client, and it just helped them see, this is what you believe, right? And I bought a little dirt bike back when I was about 10 or 12. It was in that summer, to replace my old hand-me-down, kind of the piece of junk dirt bike that my uncle had given me. The first dirt bike was mine. It was owned by me in a way. I didn't owe anything on it. I was just able to enjoy it, the fun of being a kid, and I got discontent with that bike because others around me, my friends, had gotten nicer dirt bikes, and this caused me to kind of like start to look comparatively at theirs, and theirs was better, faster, whatever. And I became discontent. I became unhappy with my situation. So I went out and took out a loan to get from my dad to buy this new, faster, shiny dirt bike. And man, did that thing let me down. When I got it home, I spent the next 2 summers, Jared, working to pay it off. And I think that's deep down why today I do have not a disdain for debt, but most debt, certainly when it buys dirt bikes or new cars or shiny things that we don't need, is such a tough thing. And I see the negative aspects of it. And really what I learned throughout that summer, or those 2 summers trying to pay for this dirt bike, when I spent more time cleaning it and washing it than I'd actually riding it, was that I ended up spending more time trying to pay for something than enjoy what I had. And I looked at this, and this is why it formed me. I have to make sure people see wealth through this lens and things through this lens of, if your goal is just to amass more, to what end? Right. And I think that's a key thing for people to think about is, money is a means. It's never the end. And I think that's what that story told me. So if you're listening at and you're thinking, well, how does this apply to my retirement? Well, you've got a story in your background that shaped you to who you are today. Number one, be sharing that with those around you, because we have things to learn from you, but also be thinking, what did it do in order to frame my outlook on life since, and how is it going to frame how I look at retirement? Yeah, that's a great word, and we could psychoanalyze you for a while here. I want to move on from this point. Yeah, that'd be interesting. We've done that before, but again, like what Ben said. Consider those stories, those key inflection points, because those stories maybe have happened 50, 60 years ago, are huge parts of your journey. And if you're aware of those, it will lead you nicely kind of into this next piece of the puzzle, which is values. And again, I don't want to give it away here, but there are connections between our journey and our values. We kind of talk about how this piece of the puzzle is an important piece as well. Oh, it's so important, Jared. I just can't say it enough how important it is that retirees stick to their values. Write them down. Make sure that your family knows because we're in a society today in a culture war, which says that the things that I know are important to my parents and my grandparents are less important today.
Yeah.
And it's scary. And some of you are thinking, well, yeah, I don't know if I dare say this or say that. Say it. We can't cancel you. You're to that point where you are uncancelable. Just say what's important to you. Make sure people understand how important these values are to you. I look at my advisor point of view, which is kind of like my version of a repurposed statement while I'm still working, and I've got several values throughout there. I put in there, I believe contentment, and again, this is stemming from that kind of early story in my life,
right.
But I believe that contentment is the linchpin of a happy, fulfilled life. I don't believe contentment's living with less, but it means abundance. Mm-hmm. So abundance, not scarcity, is another one of those words I'll use. I believe that generosity means we are open with what we have. I believe that we need to hold gratitude towards what we've been given. I also believe in clarity and order. Mm-hmm. Like, I want things to look a certain way. I want organization for my clients.
Yeah.
And all those things, Jared, come out of why I'm in this business, that story. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the how I'm going to behave. That's how values work in organizations, right? We have goals. We have what we want to get accomplished. We'll talk about that next. But we need to first set the groundwork.
Yeah.
We need to lay the rules of how we're going to behave. That's the same in retirement. Mm-hmm. What things are you going to stick to? What values are you not going to deviate from? Mm-hmm. And believe me, like I said at the beginning, those things are so powerful.
Yeah.
And the world today wants to kind of not only tell most retirees they're washed up, move out of the way, but they want to say, well, that's kind of the way people used to think. Truth. Well, that's kind of old. I mean, yeah, I get it. Your generation thought that was important. We're more open and flexible today. We're more able to bend the rules, and there's some just crazy things that happen. I mean, and I think when people stick to those values, we're a whole lot better off. And when they not only stick to them, but they communicate them in a place of love. You want to help people and make sure people see truth. But again, I think too many people there are too afraid to do that.
Yeah. What's an interesting little side nugget to this is that there's a very specific, formidable time in a person's life, usually around third grade or so, where your values are actually set in your life. It's pretty interesting too that your dirt bike story came at what time?
Yeah, I was 10 to 12 years old.
Exactly. So you're kind of in that very formidable years. And so likely your values that you hold, there's probably something happening back at that time, which again, as you build this statement for yourself, it's a great time to go back and reflect back to that, to your whole past, certainly, but to that very specific kind of section of life, because there's a lot of clues that are mixed in there as well. Any more commentary on that?
No, I just think it's like, I just can't highlight how important it is for people to dive into their values and then stick to them. And say, this is who I am. Sure. And
don't apologize.
Don't apologize for it. God made you that way. He made you a certain way, and your story is important. There's people that have been in your life to teach you things. Now you have to be the person in their life to make sure they see that truth, that value system that I think we're getting away from too much.
Yeah. So we talked about your journey, kind of finding that signature story, so to speak. Talked about establishing your values, kind of that plumb line for retirement. What's kind of the third piece of this?
Jared, the third piece of this is really your goals. What do you want to accomplish? And I think that's important, right? Too many people in retirement are like, I'm done accomplishing. I've run the race. I'm done. This is the end. It should be looked at as more of a new starting line, like a new, hey, we're freed up, right? 8 to 10 hours a day that we used to be at work. What are our new goals? What are we hoping to do in retirement.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge piece. And again, juxtapose that against kind of what the typical, air quotes, retirement should look like. And it's like goals. Like that's a pretty atypical, non-societal viewpoint on retirement. We could like give people maybe like a little bit of a roadmap here as to kind of how they can find that, or maybe give some examples as what that looks like.
Well, I can tell you, Jared, goals are not a young person's game. I mean, I love my C.S. Lewis. He's got a great quote. He says, "You are never too old to set a new goal or dream a new dream." And I believe that 100%. So people coming into this age group of what we'll call retirement age in our country should be looking at it as not a time to move away and just rest, permanent vacation, but setting goals and thinking through what they have to look forward to. They should have weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual goals that go well beyond themselves. You can have health goals. I love that. But you can also have, impact goals, both inward, like close to you. You can look at, how do I want to develop my faith deeper in this time? Right. How do I want to develop and encourage my family and those closest to me, my society, the people in my community? So I would want to break it down in really step by step. Here's what I want to do as far as my overall goals in retirement. Too many people, when you don't have something to look forward to, Jared, it is a very scary place to be. So if you're in retirement and your only goal is just to rest, that's not a good plan. That's a plan to fail. That's a plan to slow down and become very tired and move out of the way again, which is not what we need. We need more people setting goals to impact those around them. Yeah,
it's the difference between like living and existing, and that's why this whole platform exists, is because you've just seen too many people that fall into that trap of like going from living with purpose and building and creating to then just existing, which is a problem. Like, let's just kind of break that down just real quick, because we have to move on to the last point here before we wrap up the show. But is this like every year we sit down and do this and come up with quarterlies, or is this like a more of a vision state, kind of a vision of who we want to become, or perhaps all of the above?
I think it's more of this is a working document all the time, something we go back and revisit. But what I would start with is my goals should be, who do I want to impact the most, right? You kind of develop that people group. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's people from another country, I don't know. But you're looking at that. You're looking at skills, abilities, talents. We've talked about that in other shows, kind of coming up with, what types of things that you're good at, what you want to get good at. And then you kind of rope it all together and come up with like near term and certainly more long-term goals for yourself. And this is something you can look at every year. I wouldn't certainly set a goal and then be done, right? You're going to set some very achievable goals short-term, and then also set some longer-term ones that you're like, I hope that maybe that's your health you can improve. Wouldn't it be something if you had a goal to actually get healthier in retirement? I've seen that before, where people had an office job, whatever it is. I mean, certainly see a medical professional, but in conjunction with moving from a sedentary work to, hey, I want to get more active. Some people can extend their life greatly by doing the right things just with their health plan and setting good health goals. There's so many things, Jared, in this life that if we don't set a goal and try to achieve it, we're not going to get there. We're going to drift downstream. We're going to slowly be taken away from what is good. So when we can look ahead and set a good, kind of attainable goal, but a stretch goal, I think it's good for people to have that. Yeah, I like that. We've got a couple minutes left. The final part here really isn't about ourselves. It's about other people. Yeah, it's really setting kind of your expectations for others, which might sound funny, but it's the people around you. I think some of that is communication with them. It's delivering this document saying, hey, this is kind of what I hope happens in my retirement. This is what I see. This is what I expect of you. And that's usually your family, those closest to you. But you're able to say things like, I've envisioned my retirement going a certain way, right? And you've gotten some buy-in and feedback from your spouse and others, but this is probably the expectation of those maybe a few steps away from that. But being able to say, this is who I am. This is the journey God's taken me to get here. This is, really my my values. This is what's most important to me. Here's my goals and what I hope to accomplish. And finally, here's how you fit into that plan. Here's the expectations that I have of you. And that's an open conversation.
Yeah.
Lots of times, how about that with grown children? People that say, well, I'm in retirement. I'm just going to spend all my time with my grandkids. Well, you better check with your kids first. Is that what they envision?
Right.
And again, it always comes across as, how can I add value to you? Right? And that's really what that last piece is. It's setting the expectations for others around you so they know, right? And you've communicated with them just how you're going to live out purpose in your retirement.
Securities offered through Avantax Investment Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through an Avantax affiliated insurance agency.